Hello and welcome to the BeforeBricks YouTube channel. So just to give you a summary about BeforeBricks and what we do, we are an architectural design and planning service, making it easy for UK homeowners to design and plan renovation projects for home extensions and loft conversions. If you are interested in finding out more about us, then please head over to our website. I will leave the link in the video description for you. In today's video, I will be sharing with you 14 renovation tips that can help you to feel less stressed when having a home extension. You might be watching this video because you're looking to breathe new life into your home, or perhaps add some extra space for you and your family, or an extra bedroom. This video is going to provide you with tips that, if you follow, can help to ensure that your home extension is as stress-free as possible. The tip number 1, keep a journal. I think it's really important to take 10 to 20 minutes out of your day to write down any thoughts you have, any worries you have, whether that be about the house extension or just your day coming up in general. And I think this really helps your mind to feel more clearer and organised, getting it all down on paper in front of you. You can also write how you intend to overcome these worries that you may have. And yeah, I just think this is a really useful one to help you feel less stressed. So tip number 2 is to be on site. I think it's so important that you are on the job site as much as possible, or that you have a dedicated professional project manager to be there for you. This will just help to ensure that the builders are keeping to the schedule and meet any project milestones on time. And there are also times when decisions will have to be made and you really need someone there who is able to make those decisions quickly, otherwise things can grind to a halt. And I think the main cause of stress during home renovations is when things take time and slow down and cause delays. So I think it's really important to ensure that someone is there as much as possible to oversee everything, and this will just help you to feel much less stressed going through the process of a home renovation. So tip number 3 is ring fence time where you don't talk about the renovation. I think it's so easy to get caught up in it all, and I think you'll find that all you'll ever do is talk about the home extension with your family, or whether that's just with your partner. And it's really important to remember to take time out from this and dedicate a time in the day, whether that's at dinner, having a glass of wine together, sitting and relaxing in the living room watching a film, or just making sure that the conversation is not about the home extension, because it's so easy to get caught up in all that and that's all you ever talk about. And I think it's also important to consider living off-site as well from the home extension, because this just enables you to get away from it rather than living amongst it all and constantly being overwhelmed by it all. So definitely important to consider living off-site. Maybe you could stay at grandparents' house or another member of family's house, and maybe they'll be happy to take you on for a few months or let you live there. Or if not, considering maybe an Airbnb or a hotel, but it is understandable that that can be quite expensive for some people. So maybe living on site is the better option. But if you are living on site, then just ensure that you give yourself time where you don't talk about the home extension and you have an area in the house where you can relax and get away from it as best as possible. Otherwise, it can soon, take over your life and you'll find that's all you ever talk about. The tip number 4 is to write a brief. And a brief will really help you to communicate your aims to your architect. So there's a number of things that you can think of to write your brief. You can think about why you are extending your house, what are you hoping to achieve, what will the new space or multiple spaces be like, and how will this cater to your lifestyle. You can think about whether you have any design preferences. For example, will it be open plan, will it be modern, or fit into the current design of your home. It's really important to write a good brief, because this will help the architect to design your extension and get a feel for what you want, resulting in great designs for you and a better outcome. Tip number 5 is to live in your house before the extension starts. And I think this is a really important one, because I think experiencing a property for around 2 to 3 months before the extension starts will help you to assess any issues that there are with the place. And I think living in the property will also help you to see which renovation building projects will make the most effective use out of your time and resources. I would even suggest keeping a record or like a journal, kind of like I mentioned in tip 1, where you can take down any notes about changes in weather, light, any noise, just over the days and weeks as you're there. And I understand for some people it may not be possible to live in the house before you have the extension, so I do really suggest and recommend to take multiple trips to the property. Bring a tape measure and a notepad with you, because I think this will just help you feel less stressed further down the line when you know that you've thought about everything and taken everything into consideration. So tip number 6 is to have a plan and really make sure not to rush the plan. It's so important to carefully think about the layout. How will the extension fit? Think about what walls you'll be keeping and what walls will you be knocking down. How will the extension fit into the design of the rest of your house, or will you be making changes to the design of the house? And this will really just help to ensure that the design is cohesive throughout. I think it's important as well to think about the lighting, where the sun is throughout the day, because this will obviously affect where you put windows, how many lights you will put in. And if you don't have a plan like this, I think you might realise something that will bother you a month into having the beautiful extension. And this is just to help prevent that and help prevent any stress further down the line. Number 7 is self-care, and I think this is a really important one and one that we tend to forget to do. Of the time when we're stressed or overwhelmed, we don't think about ourselves and think about taking time out to do something that helps us relax. So I think there's a lot of things you can do for self-care. Obviously people like to do different things, but one of them could be going for a run or doing exercise. Exercise is really important because it increases your overall health and your sense of well-being. And running actually releases brain chemicals which help relieve pain and stress. So getting outdoors and exercising in a natural environment also provides a change of scenery and helps you get away from the home extension or the messy building sites. And once you complete a challenging workout or go for a run, you'll be ready to take on any obstacles that come your way that day and helps you feel just more positive. So that's definitely one that I would recommend. I think similar to that, if you don't want to go for a run, you can go for a long walk just to get out into nature and into the fresh air. And you know, studies have shown that time in nature is where people feel safest, and it is an antidote for stress. So it can definitely lower the blood pressure and stress hormone levels, reduce nervous system arousal, enhance immune system function, increase self-esteem, reduce anxiety. So it all has such positive benefits, and it's really important to feel positive and be positive when you're having a home extension, because you want to have a good relationship with the people on your building site and be as positive as possible. So the next one would be to have a bubble bath. This is something that is very simple but does relax you a lot. So it actually is proven as well that being in warm water or hot water in a bath can reduce pain and inflammation. So if you're quite tense and stressed, this can really help. It can also calm the nervous system, reducing the levels of stress and anxiety in the body and improving your mood. So self-care things that I personally would do myself, I think one of them is yoga or meditation. And I think introducing a daily meditation practice that can reduce stress and generate kindness as well, even if it's just 10 minutes each morning, can go a long way to help you manage your project, solve problems, avoid or minimize mistakes, and maintain good relationships with builders, as I said, and other professionals when tensions are running high. Yoga can benefit 3 aspects of ourselves. So this can be our body, mind, and our breathing. And this is often related to stress. So this can really, really help you to calm down. You can perhaps look up a beginner's tutorial on YouTube on how to meditate, or a 10-minute yoga beginner session on YouTube. I think another great app for this is the Calm app, and you can find loads of free videos on there with meditation and relaxation, things that you can listen to. So I think Calm and also looking on YouTube is something that you can do to start doing this and add this into your daily routine. Another one I think would be going out with friends and taking time away from the situation. As simple as it sounds, I personally think that my way to relax is to socialise and to get away from a situation. I think it's great to go out with your partner or your family, but they are also in that environment as well. And so you might find that's what you end up talking about is the home extension. Whereas if you're out with friends having drinks, they'll be talking about their lives, and you can just focus on something else for once, which will just help you relax and just, even if it's just for an evening, just to forget about everything that's going on at home. So I definitely would recommend to socialise and go out with your friends. Obviously, there's other ones which are much more simple, like watching a film, watching Netflix, or just reading a book. So there's lots of options, and I think this is a really, really important tip when it comes to reducing stress, because like I said, we often neglect ourselves and forget to take time for ourselves. So tip number 8 is hiring an architect or designer. It's so important to make sure that it is someone who understands you and what you want and is willing to listen and work with your ideas and with your budget. And I really recommend to look at reviews and previous work of architects and designers, because this will just help to ensure that this is the right person for you. Because you know, they are going to be the person that runs the project for you, and they will fully understand building standards and regulations so that they can quickly identify any potential project issues. And they will also be able to inform on likely costs, simplifying the process of hiring a builder. So it's really important to get a competent architect that has worked on similar projects, the one that you desire on your property, so that it matches, you know, your taste and aesthetic. And don't be afraid to ask for contacts of friends or family if they have extensions that you admire, because they could give you details for an architect that they've already used. So this just really helps to relieve stress if you know that the architect or designer that you have hired is going to work well with you and with the design. Okay, so tip number 9 is to choose the right builder. So when choosing who will do your work for you, you have to be really careful. Make sure that you ask around, see if any of your neighbours have had work done, they have any recommendations, and look at reviews online, ask for references to see images of other job sites, because this will really allow you to choose someone that will do your work well. And, you know, doing your research to find the right information about completing your project can play a huge part in reducing stress throughout the process. So it's really important to remember to read reviews, ask friends and family, go and see their previous projects. And when it comes to picking the right builder, there really is never too much research. You really want to employ a competent and reliable builder with great online reviews, and you want to be able to call them at any moment, them to provide a clear and fixed payment plan as well, and for them to have a consistent positive attitude towards their work, because you really want to be able to get on with the people, especially when they're going to be there for a long period of time. So to choose a builder whose work you can view and see if it matches your taste as well is really important. And one thing I would say to be wary of is the trap of builders who give a low estimate. Be sure to check the reviews, because low quality builders may work slowly, raising productivity issues with many interruptions on the way, and any issues they face may lead to them demanding more money and taking you way out of your budget. And you can just really avoid all of this extra added stress, and also to avoid builders who give a cash in hand quote, because you then won't have a paper trail if things do go wrong. This is a really important one to reduce any extra added stress and to make sure you stay within your budget. So tip number 10 is taking care of all the approvals and agreements. So there are lots of new terms for first-time renovators to understand and get their head around, maybe like yourself, which can be really overwhelming. There's things, you know, like planning permission, the permitted development, the prior approval, building regulations, the Party Wall Act. So there is really a lot to get your head around. And the solution for this is definitely to reach out to an architectural service that can keep it simple for you and walk you through the process. And this will just mean that you don't need to struggle and you don't need to become an expert overnight. So the first one to think about is planning permission. Thinking about the potential restrictions and being proactive to ensure that you aren't held up by waiting on approval is really important. Think about whether you need planning permission. Have you contacted the local authority to ensure it complies with any building regulations? And it's better to have these questions answered earlier on to reduce the risk of any hiccups once once the work has begun, or any added stress further down the line. And if in doubt, you can check out the government webpage, and I'll leave a link for this below. So check whether you need planning permission. Before going ahead with an extension, it's vital to get in touch with your local authority and to be sure that your plan is approved. Otherwise, you may find yourself in deep trouble if you don't, as you will have committed a planning breach and you don't want to have to deal with any fines or anything more further down the road. So the next one is regulations. If you're building a house extension or a loft conversion, your project may not require householder consent through submitting an application for planning permission. So most projects that can be built under permitted development rights will still need to comply with building regulations. So then there is the Party Wall Agreement. A Party Wall Act is necessary if you share a wall with your neighbours, or if you lived in an attached or semi-detached house. So one is usually needed when building an extension, and you have to tell them if you are building on or at the boundary of your two properties, and if you're working on an existing party wall or structure, and if you are digging below and near to the foundation level of their property. So a Party Wall Act needs to be obtained before building work can start, and you'll usually need to give your neighbour at least 2 months notice before you start building. So your neighbour can then either give or deny consent within 14 days of you giving notice, and you must avoid causing unnecessary inconvenience to your neighbour, and protect your neighbour's property from damage and pay for any damage that occurs. But your neighbours also must let the workmen onto their property during normal working hours. So these are all really important things to make sure you think about and consider, because this will, again, like I said, avoid any extra stress. So tip number 11 is to inform your insurance. So inform your home insurer of the renovation project. Works that are potentially dangerous and increased security risk could invalidate your homeowner's insurance if not reported or if not covered. And additional temporary cover may be required. The best thing to do is to give your insurance provider a call to check if the policy covers a typical renovation work like the kitchen extension and loft conversion, and to make your home insurer provider aware of the extension. Even if the builders have their own cover, it's really important to keep your provider in the loop. And I think another one is to get site insurance, and make sure that you get site insurance with a top insurance provider to cover both the existing building structure and new builds up until the end of the project. An extension comes with many risks, such as collapses, floods and bursts, so it is vital that you are fully covered. Tip number 12 is communication is key. Having everyone on the same page is essential for the success of the project. And we've got a quote here from Jim Duncan, who recently finished his second house extension, and he says that one of the key learning was on communication between the various subcontractors, or more lack of. The electricians had drilled all the holes and fitted the wiring for the light fittings. The next day, the plasterers arrived to plaster the ceiling, covering all the holes left by the electricians. So never assume with communication, and double check to avoid extra unnecessary work. Avoidable mistakes can negatively impact relationships between client and contractor. And luckily for Jim, this was a relatively quick and inexpensive fix. However, poor communication can sometimes lead to mistakes that cost thousands of pounds, as well as driving projects to a complete halt. So it's really important to keep a record of conversation on site and on the phone. And this doesn't necessarily have to mean that you need to carry around a voice recorder, but taking notes to summarize a conversation is really beneficial, and then perhaps typing it up later on can also go a long way. If you want to go further, then you can create a new folder or a tab on your email account to separate project specific communication, or create an email address for the project as well. And this will just ensure that everything is clear and there's not going to be any miscommunication, and that will result in you feeling much less stressed. Tip 13 is consider any site access issues. It's really important to consider any restrictions when you will be building, and whether the materials and equipment can be delivered to your property. And you must make sure that there is enough room on and around your property for builders and suppliers to park their vehicles and store materials. And it also may be wise to dedicate a low priority and infrequently used room to the storage of their materials so that they are out of the way. Okay, so the final tip is tip number 14, which is living off site. So I know for some people it is possible to live in your house during the extension, but it is often less stressful to actually move out and rent a flat or house locally. And I think this is a really good idea if you are looking for ways to reduce stress whilst you're renovating, because living on a building site for 1 to 3 months can really take its toll, and especially if you're having young children and or you work from home. And so I think moving into rental accommodation on a short-term contract can insulate you from the mess, the noise, and just the general chaos of major building work. And a positive of this is that it can really speed up the renovation process, because builders, they won't need to work around your life and your family. So I think renting a place locally as well means that you'll have quick access to the property, which can be really convenient if you are managing the construction project yourself. The only downside to this, I would say, for some people, maybe the cost to move out, and it might be too much for you, which is completely understandable. But there are also many things that you can do to reduce stress whilst living on site. So there always are other options if you do need to stay living on site whilst having the extension. If you would like to see more helpful videos by BeforeBricks in the future, please make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications.